Someone got their hands on an Outlaws of Thunder Junction pre-release kit, and thanks to that, we now have a good understanding of all the new mechanics coming to the new set. Now of course, heavy spoiler warnings as we're going to be showing a couple of newly leaked cards, so if you don't want to see them just yet, skip this one. With that being said, let's jump into it. Let's start with an easy one. Outlaws. Outlaws is a new batching mechanic that takes a group of cards or player actions and sets them under one name. A batching example would be Historic. Historic cards include legendaries, artifacts, and sagas. In this case, Outlaws refer to the creature type Assassins, Mercenaries, Pirates, Rogues, and Warlocks. In the enchantment card, at knife point, the card says, as long as it's your turn, Outlaws you control have first strike. Pretty self-explanatory. Next up, we have the new mechanic, Plot. As written on the card, Irascible Wolverine, we can see that the plot mechanic says the following. Plot X. You may pay X and exile this card from your hand. Cast it as a sorcery on a later turn without paying its mana cost. Plot only as a sorcery. So right off the bat, this is just a slightly tweaked Foretell mechanic. The big difference here though is that with Foretell, the card was exiled face down, and as per comprehensive rule 406.3, exiled cards are, by default, kept face up and may be examined by any player at any time, which means plot cards are always exiled face up. The other major difference is that the plot card has a timing restriction slapped on it. Cast it as a sorcery on a later turn. Whereas with Foretell, only standard timing restrictions applied. But of course, with Plot, you do get to cast a spell for free. A couple of things you want to keep in mind for Plot. Firstly, it's a way to protect key cards you want to cast from effects like Thoughtseize and other hand disruption. Secondly, it works well with cards that care about things being cast from somewhere other than your hand. Mizzix Replica Rider, Vega the Watcher, and a bunch of the Doctor Who cards, for example. And the last thing to keep in mind is that the plotted card can only be cast on a later turn. You can't plot a card and then immediately cast it on the same turn. The next new mechanic we have is Saddle. As written on Drover Grizzly, Saddle says, Saddle X. Tap any number of other creatures you control with total power X or more. This mount becomes saddled until end of turn. Saddle only as a sorcery. This time around, it's the crew mechanic that's getting a tweak. Although notable here, you're saddling the new creature type mounts, which are already creatures, as opposed to vehicles which need to be crewed in order to become creatures. On Drover Grizzly, when it becomes saddled and attacks, creatures you control gain trample until the end of turn. The one big thing of note here is that you can only saddle as a sorcery, so you can't use saddle to tap your creatures during your opponent's turn. While it was only an edge case with vehicles, it's still good to keep in mind. We also got a look at a brand new creature token, Mercenary. A Mercenary token is a 1/1 red mercenary with the activated ability, tap, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until the end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. These creature tokens are surprisingly good, as the downside with generating 1/1s is sometimes there are no good attacks with them, but now you can use them to buff your other creatures that can profitably attack. The last mechanic in the standard set is Crime. Crime is another batching mechanic that groups a specific set of player actions. In this case, Mara has confirmed that the crime reminder text says the following. Targeting opponents, anything they control, and/or cards in their graveyard is a crime. So lightning bolting an opponent's creature is a crime. Countering one of their spells is a crime, but interestingly, casting cards like Farewell and Armageddon is not a crime. As always, be sure to like the video if you learned something, check out this video if you want to learn about the rules for more upcoming cards, and be sure to subscribe, otherwise I'll make Oko put his shirt back on. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.